This episode of Destructoid is brought to you by Slim Jim, made from the stuff guy gamers need. Coming up on Destructoid, The Witcher 3 is officially announced, DayZ finally shows off some actual gameplay, and The Last of Us will haunt your dreams with horrible noises. Right now on Destructoid.
Welcome to Destructoid. I'm Tara Long.
And I'm Max Scoville.
Happy Tuesday, Max.
Happy Tuesday, Tara.
You look tired.
I am sick with diseases.
Oh no, did you catch my bird
flu? You probably did that. I got your bird flu.
Ah, shit. Don't breathe on me, please.
Well, you already have it. You got antibodies.
It's true. I don't know about that, but yeah.
Much ado about bad business.
I probably don't have to tell you guys that today is a pretty big day for releases. We got Sly Cooper Thieves in Time is finally out. Fire Emblem Awakening is on the 3DS now, and the one I have personally been most excited about, which is Dead Space 3. I put up my review of the game on our Rev3 Games channel this morning, so feel free to go watch that and leave a nice comment. Please, dear God, I need it. Meanwhile, Jim Sterling reviewed the game over on Destructoid.com today and seemed to have not quite as good of an experience as I had, but still a good one nonetheless. He slammed the game for having a lot of new features that he says do nothing but get in the way of everything fans loved about the series. That, of course, includes microtransactions, which you guys have been hearing about a lot lately. I complained about that myself in the review. He also wasn't much of a fan of the co-op campaign either, which he said feels utterly forced. However, he did find the inclusion of optional missions to be quite pleasing, which I enjoyed as well. And he also had good things to say about the visuals and the atmosphere that Visceral has created. Overall, he gave Dead Space 3 an 8 out of 10. He also said that despite it being a step down from its predecessors, it's still a bloody great game. That was my English accent, that turned out weird. And that it's well worth any fan's time. So if you guys want, you can read his full review on Destructoid.com. But wait, there's more. To celebrate Dead Space 3's launch day, we also got details about its very first piece of DLC called Dead Space 3 Awakened. Yeah, sounds sexy, right? We still know very little about it at this point, nothing about narrative or anything. All we know is that players will be able to, quote, experience the franchise's darkest chapters as the necromorph battles become even more gruesome and terrifying than ever before. The game's executive producer, Steve Papoutsis, says it'll have some of the most disturbing content featured in a Dead Space game so far, which I'm sure my neighbors will just love after this week spent reviewing it. Whew! God knows what they think is going on in my house. Anyway, Awakened is set for a March release on Xbox, PS3, and Origin on PC. It's going to cost $9.99. Also, in case people have forgotten, I would like to remind everyone that DLC was also announced on launch day for Dead Space 2. Dead Space 2 Severed, specifically. And I'm not saying that that's a good trend for the industry or anything. I personally don't really buy into most DLC anyway. But I will say that announcing this now is probably the worst decision that EA could have made with all the uproar about microtransactions and Day 1 DLC and Origin poisoning people's babies. You heard about that? Hey, it could happen. Who knows what's inside those computers, Max? Could be knives. We don't know.
Don't let the babies go inside the computers because they might die. Anyway, before we get sued or something.
Origin has anything to do with it.
Moving on. You guys might remember the secret message that was hidden away in CD Projekt Red's trailer for Cyberpunk 2077, hinting that they would be announcing something big on February 5th. I'm not wearing a watch, but that's today, we can probably guess what that announcement would be, and it's, as we expected, it's The Witcher 3. They have announced The Witcher 3. The first reveal of this was, of course, on a leaked cover for next month's Game Informer magazine on paper, like old-fashioned people read. And, of course, Game Informer gets all the big exclusive stuff. The big takeaway here from this cover is that Geralt has a beard, and the game's title is also The Witcher 3: The Wild Hunt. And today we got an official press release, which included a very sleek trailer that you just saw the entirety of, which revealed nothing more than the game's logo, which is like that, except with more blood on it, and there's a 3 at the end of it. Are you seeing it? Anyway, the press release makes a few important points. Allegedly, The Witcher 3 will be 30 times bigger than its predecessor, and it will take place in a truly open-world environment, which is very, very cool. And if for some reason this doesn't sound fantastical enough, the press release really continues to drive home The Witcher 3's setting. I'm just going to read this in the proper tone. A world which is thrilling to explore, full of daring adventures, momentous quests, memorable characters, and unique monsters. Players will freely travel through woods, lakes, mountains, cities, and villages. Each region is inhabited by distinct populations with their own customs, legends, and problems. The war-ravaged world is so huge that to reach further places, you will need to ride a horse or sail a boat to get there. A world where your choices have truly epic consequences. We get it! It is an open-world fantasy RPG. You don't need that many words to say that. It sounds very cool, but
I wish
dear
you'd
Lord,
talk like that to me
I
all
do
the
too.
time. I'd be so
I
much
wish
happier.
I too was Geralt of Rivia. On a sadder note, the press release also states that this is going to be the last Witcher game from CD Projekt Red, which I'm sure is a bummer for a lot of fans to hear. But the folks at CD Projekt want to end the series on a high note, and they are hardly out of stories to tell, as you might expect. And I mean, by all means, Cyberpunk 2077, give me that.
Yeah.
The Witcher 3, The Wild Hunt, is slated for a 2014 release simultaneously on all high-end platforms. So presumably I will be able to play The Witcher 3 on my DeLonghi espresso maker. I don't actually have one of those, but that would be a high-end platform.
High-end platforms, you say? Why, you must be referring to the Ouya.
Oh!
Anyone? No? All right. Well, we've been talking about it for months now, and it looks like the end is finally in sight for this tiny little Android Power Machine box. According to a WallStreetJournal.com interview with the company's CEO, Julie Ehrman, the Ouya is going to be hitting retailers starting this June. So Amazon, GameStop, Target, and Best Buy will all have the unit stocked on their shelves. Meanwhile, those of you who backed the original Kickstarter last year should be receiving your Ouyas as soon as April. And of course, I mentioned on our show last month, I believe, that developers would be receiving theirs in March. Yeah, and they got the really cool, clear ones, although I think the final product is a little bit neater. If you didn't back the Kickstarter, but you still want to purchase one, they just opened it up for pre-orders today for both the console and the controllers, of which you can see the final versions here. I'm actually really pleased with how the controller turned out. I think it looks really nice. I like the all black, looks really slick. And I'm interested to see that middle thing there is actually a touchpad. Not quite a screen, so it won't like display things, but you'll be able to use it for input, sort of like the back of your Vita. I am not particularly looking forward to having to memorize a new arrangement of letters on the buttons.
Press the O button.
Yeah, press the U button. Oh, there's too many of them. It's hard enough for me to do a PS3. Anyway, the console will be priced at $99 across the board, whether you pre-order or not, and the controllers are going to be $50 a piece, which is a little bit steep, but I think that is, to recoup the cost of the touchpad. So they have been pretty scant on revealing their launch lineup so far, but Ehrman did confirm that they have at least 200 games coming to the Ouya, many of which are going to be exclusive. So they actually are bringing Final Fantasy III to it, and this will be sort of the first time that it's on like a big screen, and they're making all these changes now, so they're like, this is an exclusive version of Final Fantasy III, which I guess if you're really into Final Fantasy is really appealing and enticing. So you might want to Ouya, I guess.
Well, go get your Ouyas. Go get your ha-has and your shits and giggles and your Ouyas. Final Fantasy III has never been on a big screen since it was. Anyway, in spite of all the fact that we're just completely sick and tired of zombies and games with zombies in them, there are still like half a dozen games with zombies in them that we still get excited about. And one of them is the standalone version of DayZ. And today we get our first actual look at in-game footage by way of a dev blog that shows a solid 15 minutes of the stuff that they are still putting into the game. Like, it is just two guys playing some of the game and talking about what they're doing with it. Big game companies, this is how you do a developer diary, not just guys putting on their glasses in slow motion. Anyway, if you don't have the full 15 minutes to sit down and watch this, I will give you the rundown of what they cover. Number one, obviously, this looks like a new game altogether, probably because it pretty much is. Visually, it's really impressive. It is a major step up from the DayZ mod. We don't get a look at any of the in-game menus or any of the zombies actually, but that's all being kept under wraps. This is pretty much a showing off kind of what the world looks like and the kind of things you can sort of do in it. The inventory system is being heavily modified, and now all the clothing items will have inventory slots in them, sort of like having a bunch of little tiny backpacks. For instance, a pair of jeans could hold 6 small items, and they're actually not going to look like just hovering jeans lying on the ground. This is very early on.
It's the Invisible Man.
This was great because it was the main guy Dean telling his partner to he's like, yep, now stand over there and now undress. I don't know, yeah, it's a little bit awkward. But anyway, loot drops have also been overhauled, and instead of loot just spawning in a small pile in the center of a house that you can kind of run in and look through, it'll actually appear in corners and in cupboards and under beds and behind stuff and so forth. So there's actually more of an incentive to explore thoroughly and to look around your surroundings. And the wrecked cars that are scattered throughout the world have also been improved, and they will now hide bits of loot in them as well. So you actually have to, really look around at stuff to make sure that you get all your cans of beans.
You really gotta remember where you put things.
Yep. The map has also been added to. There are now swamp areas, which was an idea from one of the Arma 2 devs who was actually, recently imprisoned in Greece. I don't know if we really talked about that much, but they were captured because Greece thought they were spies. And there's also the island of Utes, I think, which is a small island from Arma 2, which is now going to be filled with zombies and added. Anyway, like I said, it is a 15-minute video showing off some of what's going to be in the game. You can find it on the DayZ dev blog, which is just dayzdev.tumblr.com. And I love how transparent these guys are being with how they're making this game, and they're pretty much being like, hey man, we're working on this game, we're taking our time, it's not done yet, bear with us, we'll have an open beta when we get to it. The original DayZ mod, it got my attention, but I never went through the trouble of making the game go into the mod and then go into the computer because I'm kind of stupid. But the idea of a standalone game that you can get and then just play it, and it's got the zombies and the canned beans and the the permadeath in it, that definitely gets my attention. And based on the way the standalone is shaping up, it
looks really good.
Looks pretty cool.
Yeah, even though we've been complaining about zombie games forever now, I feel like.
Yep. We have one more zombie game to talk about before the end of our show, but first let us take a word from our sponsor.
Attention all gamers, we have breaking news regarding meat brought to you by the fine people at Slim Jim.
For decades, Slim Jims have been made out of meat, the tentpole of any manly diet. But now, in an effort to fuel the carnivorous demands of the 21st century cyber warrior, Slim Jim sticks and steakhouse strips include on-pack codes to unlock in-game content for the latest EA games like Need for Speed Most Wanted, Medal of Honor Warfighter, and Dead Space 3. Stuff guys crave like race cars and gun camos and custom weapons. Disclaimer, please do not actually attempt to eat race cars, gun camos, or custom weapons because they are not food.
Yeah, they will kill you. What's more, with each code you've got the chance to win cool prizes like flat screen TVs, tablet computers, or even a trip to visit EA Studios. For more information, visit slimjim.com/EA or your local meat retailers and convenience marts.
Slim Jim, made from stuff guy gamers need.
So back to the show. The Last of Us is easily one of our most anticipated games of 2013, as I'm sure it is for most of you as well.
Even though we're sick of zombies.
I know, even though I'm being a hypocrite here, but whatever, it looks fantastic. Adam Sessler actually was down in LA last week checking out the game, and guys, I don't want to sound premature, but this game is scary as shit. Apparently, I'm not the only one who feels this way either. Destructoid's Dale North actually put up his preview over on Destructoid.com with the headline, "The Last of Us Scared Me Shitless," which is definitely worth a read. Adam Sessler, oh gosh. He also just put up a hands-on impression video up on our Rev3 Games channel last night that shows off some of the new gameplay. I actually asked him right before we recorded this episode, I said, can you sum up the game in one sentence so I can tell the viewers in our show? And he said, quote, "I only played around 40 minutes of the game, but it is the most harrowing experience I've had." So naturally I asked him, the most harrowing experience today or ever? And then he just went really silent and went into deep thought for a few seconds, and I think I broke his brain. But yeah, I watched some gameplay of this earlier. The sound design is absolutely terrifying. To your left. They have these zombies called runners, which howl at you in this really scary woman's voice from far away. And they have another kind called clickers that apparently have
shut it down.
The infection in their brain. When their brains get infected, the infection tries to crawl out, so it creates all these creepy spores growing out of their head, and they naturally go blind from that.
You know when somebody laughs when they're drinking milk and the milk comes out of their nose? It's like if that happened with ham.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's
really
actually
gross.
surprisingly graphic.
And they make this little
Yeah, well, so that drives them blind. So they end up using echolocation, where you just click like that with your mouth
no.
figure out like what's around you, and they'll like chase you and stuff. Oh my god, it's so scary. There's some other actually really neat tidbits of info in that gameplay video. For instance, you can craft weapons on the fly, which I think is a really cool thing. You don't have to like go to a weapons bench or go into the menu system to do it. So it's like really immersive in that regard. I really recommend checking his video out. It just made me all that much more excited about this game, which I was already pretty pumped about. And he also has an interview up with the game's creative director, Neil Druckmann, which is also quite eye-opening. Again, all of that content can be found on youtube.com/rev3games, along with Adam's review of Sly Cooper Thieves in Time, which also just went up today, actually.
And of course, you can find corresponding written stuff over on Destructoid.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the exact opposite reaction to the videos and stuff for Last of Us, because I was excited about this game, and then it's just like, hey, want to play a game where you're just in a dark room with like mushroom-headed people who are like clicking and screaming at you, and all you have is like a flashlight and a brick that's like has like a nail tape to it, and I don't.
He's frail.
No, thank you. I'll be playing Angry Birds Star Wars 2.
Oh,
no time for this hardcore gaming. No, thank you.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
Anyway,
that looks good, though. I'm really excited
those guys
about
have
that.
been doing some cool stuff with that. That is all the time we have for today's show. You should, as always, go follow us on Twitter so that we grow more powerful by the minute. I'm Max Scoville. She's Tara Longest, and together we are DayZ Show. We're going to be back here on Friday with another live show at 3:30 p.m. Pacific time. That's right here, youtube.com/DayZ, and you got to tune in. Maybe we'll have prizes, and we'd love to see you there.
Oh, we'll have prizes.
I'm going to go home and take a nap because I don't feel well.
Have some water.
Not that
don't
water.
touch me. I don't want your saliva.
Good night.